In the vast, untouched silence of deep space, the Ahq-Ez'Reth, an ancient alien starship, floated adrift. Built by a long-gone civilization, its metal skin was encrusted with dust, its markings faded, and its systems silent for over 2,000 years. The ship was a marvel of technology, a relic from a time when the Ahq-Ez'Reth species had roamed the stars in massive fleets. But when their civilization mysteriously collapsed, this ship was left alone, drifting in the quiet void. Its engines had long since cooled, and every inch of its interior lay still under a thin coating of space dust. Dimly lit consoles and hollow hallways stretched deep into the belly of the ship, with broken power relays and rusted panels, untouched by any hand. Only the small blinking of a silent, distress beacon, nearly drained of power, pulsed weakly through the darkness. For centuries, the ship drifted through one empty sector of space after another, its signal too weak to draw attention from passing ships. Until the day it was discovered by a small, unlikely traveler. Janie Willis had never expected her first space cruise to turn into an interstellar scavenger hunt. But when her cruiser's captain announced a rare opportunity to explore the remains of a mysterious alien craft, she didn't hesitate to grab her helmet, a snack, and an old lollipop stick she'd been fiddling with all morning. Stepping off the cruiser and onto the ghostly ship, Janie felt a chill pass through her suit. Her flashlight beam cast strange shadows in the dust-laden corridors, where faintly glowing panels seemed to react to her presence. She couldn't believe how massive the ship was. Every hallway twisted and turned in unfamiliar directions, and every doorway seemed to hold secrets that time had locked away. The captain's voice crackled over her communicator. "Stay within sight of your group, Ms. Willis. We don't want to lose anyone on a ship this size." But Janie, with her insatiable curiosity, soon found herself lagging behind her tour group. She wandered down a dimly lit corridor, following a set of symbols on the walls that seemed almost to glow as she passed by. "Just 5 more minutes," she mumbled, glancing back only to see the beam of her group's flashlights dimming in the distance. "They won't miss me." Her wandering led her into a cavernous chamber at the ship's center. The ceiling was a dizzying height, lost in shadow, and at its heart lay a dormant, hulking machine that looked like it hadn't seen life in centuries. Rows of controls surrounded a central, round console where a cluster of cables coiled out from an oblong socket. "This must be the bridge," Janie whispered to herself. Her fingers itched to touch the controls, though she didn't dare, not until she noticed something odd about the socket. It was empty, as if it were waiting for a piece to be inserted. She crouched, examining it from every angle. The socket was smooth, round, and nearly featureless, except for a small hole at the base. "Oh, come on, that looks like a keyhole or something," she said, exasperated. "What, do they want me to stick a magic wand in here?" She reached in her pocket and pulled out the only thin, stick-like object she had, her lollipop stick. Grinning, she shrugged. Why not? With the casual bravado only a space tourist could muster, Janie slid the lollipop stick into the socket and twisted. To her amazement, the machine hummed to life. Panels around her glowed with an intense, greenish light, and a low, rhythmic thrumming filled the chamber as ancient circuitry came alive after millennia of silence. The walls flickered with holographic displays that sputtered and coughed like something waking from a long, uneasy sleep. Janie took a startled step back as a voice, alien and hollow, echoed around her. She couldn't understand a word, but the tone was gentle, almost grateful, as if the ship itself was welcoming her. She spoke into her communicator. Captain, I think I just woke something up." Back on the cruiser, the crew gasped as they saw the alien starship light up like a giant lantern in space. Every window glowed, every panel illuminated, and the ship's dormant engines began to whir faintly, producing a strange, resonant hum that vibrated through the cruiser's hull. Janie's communicator crackled with the captain's voice. "Willis, what did you do?" I didn't think it'd actually work," she stammered. I used a lollipop stick." The captain, clearly trying to hold back a laugh, replied, "Whatever you did, it's alive now." As the ship powered up, The holographic displays on the bridge arranged themselves into a sequence, displaying complex patterns of light and symbols that Janie couldn't decipher. The ship systems began running diagnostic checks, the hum of machinery growing stronger. Suddenly, a faint, echoing projection filled the air around her, showing what looked like stars and planets. Charted pathways from an ancient galaxy that had long since changed. The ship was accessing its last programmed route, a journey that had never been completed. The ghostly hologram played, showing the images of an alien crew smiling, talking, their faces frozen in time, projected like specters around Janie. "Captain," she said softly, I think the ship was on its way home." In response, the ship shifted slightly, aligning itself with a distant star Janie didn't recognize. She could feel its systems thrumming with purpose, as if the ship, dormant for centuries, had suddenly remembered what it was meant to do. Janie left the bridge as the alien starship's engines fully engaged. The ship, powered by her odd, makeshift ignition, began to move slowly, an enormous, ancient vessel in the vast dark of space. It seemed to know where it was going now. As she made her way back to her group, Janie looked back at the ship, watching as its lights flared brightly, one last silent farewell to her. With a low rumble, it drifted forward, picking up speed, accelerating towards some distant destination known only to its creators. For Janie, the brief, unplanned adventure was over. But for the Ahq-Ez'Reth, it had just begun. A month later, back on Earth, Janie became a legend among space tourists and ship engineers alike. Her story of a lollipop stick igniting an ancient alien starship made headlines across every system. And, as she was fond of telling people over drinks, sometimes all it takes to make history is the right stick. As for the starship, its fate remains unknown, journeying somewhere beyond the stars, returning to a home that may no longer exist. But at least after 2,000 years, it was finally on its way.